Hey folks, this is Kelani. Going into the Battle for Azeroth expansion, and even just going into the long-awaited pre-patch event, a lot of things are going to change. So many systems are being removed or replaced, and legendaries are no exception. The legendary system that we've been playing with for the last 2 years is going in the trash can, but don't worry, your current legendaries will still provide you with their bonuses and effects up to level 115, I believe, so you'll get a little bit of use out of them while leveling, but after that they're just another piece of gear. Hopefully we'll be able to actually do something with them after that, because right now you can't sell them or delete them, but that's a problem for another time. Some of those legendary effects make or break certain classes. Some of them are just outright overpowered, but you might not have to worry, depending on what class you're playing in the new expansion. Some of these legendary effects are sticking around in one form or another. Some of them are fully realized legendaries just hidden away in the talent section, or some of them are a bit of a ghost of their former selves, but they should hopefully still be impactful. Let's check out all of the legendary effects which are sticking around in Battle for Azeroth and where you can find them. Let's go through class by class to make this super simple, starting with the Death Knights, but first there's actually some general multi-class legendaries which are being taken forward as well. The most widely used is probably Pride Az, which is becoming an Azerite trait which you can find on all sorts of pieces of Azerite armor across every class. Every 30 seconds you gain a little bubble. Now this isn't quite going to be on the same level as Pride Az, but hey, any bubble is better than no bubble, right? The other multi-class legendary that's sticking around in some form is Agrimar's Stride. This has also become an Azerite trait, though it's not going to get you running at the speed of light. This is going to be a fairly minor increase, but at least the general idea of the legendary is still there. Who knows, if you can get enough of these traits stacked up, assuming they stack up, you might get a worthwhile bonus out of them. So let's dive into the Death Knight legendaries. For Blood, Skullflower's Hemostasis is being crammed into the talent section, and they didn't even really change the name. The Hemostasis talent will provide the same effect as the legendary, with a bit of a lower cap on its potential, 8% stacking 5 times instead of 20% stacking 5 times, but you should be able to crank out those stacks easier with the talent being per target hit by Blood Boil. For Frost we have the Cold Heart legendary also being stuffed into the talent section. It seems like a popular place to find old legendary effects, let me tell you. They're not even trying to hide it. The Cold Heart talent will do pretty much the same thing as the legendary. Every 2 seconds you gain a stack of Cold Heart which you can spend to increase the damage of your next Chains of Ice. The stun effect at 20 stacks doesn't seem to be carried over though. Unholy doesn't seem to have any legendaries joining us in Battle for Azeroth. Moving on to Demon Hunters, Anger of the Half-Giants will be sticking around as a new talent. Insatiable Hunger. Not quite as much fury at the top end of things, but you're still going to have the potential to generate only 1 extra fury, so that's always fun. Keeping the RNG in RNG Hunter is important after all. At least it's one of the more powerful legendaries being brought forward and made into a talent. Can you imagine if a worthless legendary became a talent? Well, I'm sure we'll find a few before this video is over. No legendaries from Vengeance sadly, but druids are rocking quite a few. For balanced druids, Lady and the Child has transformed into the wonderful talent Twin Moons. Now when I say transformed, it lost 5 yards on the spread effect and that's about it, but at least the 20% damage bonus remains intact. For Feral Druids, the Wild Shaper's Clutch isn't being copy-pasted into a talent, but its effects can be seen in similar Azerite powers. There's one called Blood Mist, where your rake damage over time has a chance to grant you Berserk, and one where Rip's damage over time has a chance to grant you a free combo point. Not too shabby. For Guardian Druids, Sky 6 Hold can be seen in the new effect of Frenzied Regeneration, so instead of being related to how much damage you've taken recently, Frenzied Regen just regens a flat amount of your health. To round it off, Resto Druids will also see a legendary effect somewhat returning. The Dark Titan's Advice can be seen in the talent Photosynthesis, where your Life Bloom has a chance to bloom on a target which also has other heal over time effects present. This might actually end up being more of a chance for that premature bloom if all of your heal over time spells have a 4% chance to trigger it. Potentially very powerful. Moving on to Hunters, Kapla, Eridan War Orders effects are actually a new baseline on Cobra Shot, reduced obviously as it's being added to a filler spell, which will be spamming way more than Dire Beast or Barbed Shot, but Kill Command could end up with a very short cooldown in BFA with this effect in play. Marksmanship Hunters aren't being left behind. One of their most powerful legendaries throughout the entirety of Legion is returning as the new talent, Calling the Shots. Casting Arcane Shot or Multi-Shot reduces the cooldown of True Shot, because waiting the full cooldown duration would be silly indeed. Survival won't be joining the Cool Kids Club, I'm afraid, but at least they have some cool changes to their base kit going into BFA. Moving on to mages, it's kind of hilarious how many legendary effects fire mages get to keep a hold of. Coralon's Burning Touch is a new talent with more or less the same effects. The damage increase has been reined in significantly, but you'll still have that execute phase below 30% health, where you get to spam your pyros reliably. Marquee Bindings of the Sun King has also become a talent called Pyroclasm, which is actually better, believe it or not. It has the exact same effects, the same damage bonus and proc chance, but you can hold up to 2 charges of the proc. Not only does that allow you to hold on to a crazy amount of burst, but it also means you won't waste as many procs if you're a little slow to use them. But wait, there's more. Belovia's final stand has also become a talent called Blazing Soul, so 3 legendaries to choose from, all on different rows, so you can actually run around with more legendary effects in BFA than you could in Legion. That's just bonkers. Frostmage also gets a few for themselves. Megtherodon's Banished Braces has sort of become a talent with a bit of a restriction placed on it. Chain Reaction lets you stack up the damage of your Ice Lances in the same way, but it's only against frozen targets, so you're relying a lot more on your Fingers of Frost and Flurry procs to get this going, as opposed to Ice Lance itself just stacking up the damage. Shattered Fragments of Syndragosa has been watered down a bit and changed slightly, but the Azerite Power Glacial Assault will still allow you to call forth some comets when you hit targets with Flurry. Arcane has been left behind a little, sadly. Onto the monks, Sal Salabim's Lost Tunic has been changed slightly and made into the talent Spitfire. Instead of Keg Smash resetting Breath of Fire, now Tiger Palm has a 25% chance to reset Breath of Fire. Same outcome, just a different approach. For the Windwalkers, the Drinking Horn cover has become a talent called Spiritual Focus, which works in the same way. Reduce the cooldown of Storm, Earth and Fire every time you spend Chi. Katsuo's Eclipse has also been tweaked a little and made into an Azerite power. It's a little less guaranteed, but Open Palm Strikes gives your Fists of Fury a chance to refund 1 Chi, which is sort of similar to reducing its cost by 1 Chi, but the 10% chance is really the kicker there. Paladins have a few legendaries returning as well. For the Holy, the Topless Tower has been made into a talent. Pretty much a copy-paste here, except the Awakening talent actually has a higher proc chance and longer duration on Avenging Wrath. Protection Paladins have a legendary that's become baseline. Heathcliff's Immortality is now the new Protection Paladin Mastery, which is really crazy. I love the change and it works really well, but for a legendary to become part of a spec's baseline kit is really interesting. Most of these effects are too powerful for that kind of treatment. Retribution Paladins might be very happy to know that one of their powerful legendaries will also return. Whisper of the Nathrezim can be reclaimed by using the talent Righteous Verdict. It only applies to Templar's Verdict though, sadly, and maintaining the buff is pretty hard at 120. We're going to need some more haste. Priests will either be really happy or really sad, depending on what spec you're playing. Pretty much everything seems to belong to the Shadow Clan. The Twins' Painful Touch effect of spreading your dots can be seen in the new talent Dark Void. It only applies Shadow Word Pain, but it applies to every enemy near your target instead of just 3. Mangaza's Madness used to provide you with an extra charge of Mind Blast, while the new talent Shadow Word Void can do you one better. How about an extra charge of Mind Blast and a little bit of extra damage on top and 3 extra Insanity? Now that's what I call value. Moving on to the Stealthy Rogues, they also have some effects being transferred to the talent section. Mantle of the Master Assassin is now an assassination talent, Master Assassin. That's a lot of assassin in one sentence. The talent isn't quite as good as the legendary. The crit chance increases only 50% instead of 100%, and the duration is 3 seconds after breaking stealth instead of 5, but the effect itself is still pretty powerful. The Dreadlord's Deceit is also becoming an assassination talent. Sorry to the Outlaw and Subtlety Rogues, which increases the damage of your next fan of knives in the exact same way. Shamans sort of have one legendary effect returning, and it's for the Restoration Shamans among you. Intact Nazjatar Molting is sort of becoming an Azerite power. It doesn't reset the cooldown on Riptide, but it allows Riptide to provide a shield if the target is below 50% health. A little bit of extra healing on low health target either way, just a bit of a different approach. Warlocks have just the one legendary going forward, but it's actually a pretty powerful one. Hood of Eternal Disdain likes quickly transformed into the Creeping Death talent, which does the exact same thing but to more or less all of your damage over time effects, and it's 15% faster instead of 10% faster, though it being a talent means you have a few tough choices to make. And last but not least, let's check out how warriors are doing. A Yarless Stoneheart for arms warriors is returning as a talent. This shouldn't really have ever been made a legendary in the first place if you ask me, but hey ho, we're back to being able to reset execute. Both arms and fury have that talent too, so happy days. On the fury side of things, CNR Charger will become a talent called Endless Rage. 6 rage instead of 8, but apart from that a straight copy paste of the effect. So quite a lot of legendaries total. If my maths isn't completely wrong, I count 30 altogether in this video. I'm glad that quite a few players will be able to stick to using some of these powerful effects, even if some of them have been watered down a little bit. You can play around with effects and combinations that you couldn't have previously. There's no 2-item restriction on talents or Azerite powers, so that's really nice. What I do find funny is that for the first few levels of Battle for Azeroth, some of these legendary effects will double up with their new talents. We'll see all of these changes before we get to level 2. During the pre-patch, I can imagine a lot of these new talents might become crazy overpowered, either because you can run with a legendary and just laugh as your power grows out of control, or because you can combine those talents with other legendary effects that couldn't otherwise be used because of the legendary limit. I still think it would have been great to allow us to run around with as many legendaries as we can hold in the weeks leading up to Battle for Azeroth, but I guess a little bit of fun is still better than none. As for legendary items in Battle for Azeroth, we'll just have to wait and see. We won't have a ridiculous amount of them like we did in Legion. If any legendaries do pop up, they're probably going to be much like they were in the past. Very special, with only 1 or 2 classes being able to use them. Is there any legendary effects that you were hoping would make it into a talent or an Azerite power in Battle for Azeroth? Were they on this list? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. If you want to hop on that train, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.